Studio, we're pleased to welcome now Jimmy Failla, host of Fox News Saturday Night with Jimmy Failla and host of Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla. Jimmy, thanks for coming on.
Come on, man. I love you, Gerard, although I have an order of protection against the people of Mississippi because I was down in Biloxi not too long ago telling jokes. Yo, I didn't realize how hard everybody goes down there. I'm still pretty beat up.
That is awesome. Well, we're glad you paid a visit and did a little work down there on the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast. But we wanted to hear your thoughts about the first week and a half of Mr. Trump's presidency. Down here in the South, Jimmy, we say he hadn't let the grass grow under his feet. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't, somebody needs to tell him that he gets 4 years. I don't think he knows. Like, he really is governing like he's racing this shot clock. It's like some Cinderella Midnight type of deal. But it's fun because this is what we wanted.
Yeah.
We're just not used to it. Because usually, Gerard, like a politician campaigns on an issue, and when they get elected, they just start fundraising off of it. They don't actually do anything about it. It's fascinating that he's not taking that route for once. And the press is out of shape because we got used to covering Biden, and that really was like covering a groundhog. You got one sighting a year, you wrote an article about it, and if you saw a shadow, you got 6 weeks of KJP. So we got to get in shape, my man. This is crazy.
Well, for those of us that have to cover this for a living, it keeps us up all night as well, right?
I know that's what I'm so blown away by is like we knew the pace was going to pick up, but we didn't know by how much. But you know what? So far, so good. I mean, I love what he's doing, and it's pretty hard to criticize. The Democrats here in New York are mad about deportations, and AOC, a woman who's so dumb she studied for a COVID test, she gets on TV and she's like, well, if you deport the Colombian murderers, it's going to drive up the price of coffee. And I'm like, dude, I'm sure everybody would pay an extra 20 cent not to get murdered fee if that's what they called it at my local deli or bodega. Yeah, for 25 cents, you're less likely to get murdered. I'm like, yeah, I'd throw that on there.
Does it appear that they're just in total disarray? Like, who's leading the pack of Democrats, and what's their agenda? I don't see much of any substance of countering other than the price of your coffee might go up if we deport murderers.
I mean, imagine it. You think of the city I live in where people are getting thrown in front of the train. You're never getting pushed in front of the train and going, hey, at least the coffee's cheap, and that's the point, is that there is no one leading them, and they haven't figured out yet, how to pick their battles. Like, some of them are just going by the old playbook, which is anything Trump does, we're going to say it's evil and it's Nazi stuff and it's everything in between. But they didn't get the memo from this past election that nobody's listening to that anymore. Nobody cares. So it's just like entertainment. It's not really activism. It's just entertainment for guys like you and me because it's sure making radio fun, ain't it?
It is. So the vice presidential candidate for the Democrats, Tim Walz, says that losing the election has been, quote, pure hell. What do you think about that?
I mean, come on. This is a dude, Tim Walz. He looks like an inflatable guy outside a car wash. You know those things that flap in the wind and their arms are always flailing and stuff? So I don't take his opinion seriously on much of anything, although he did let his city burn to the ground, which resembled more of hell than I think the outcome of the election. I mean, isn't it funny, Gerard, that they're complaining about, this difficult defeat? They only had to campaign for 100 days. Most people who run for president in the 2024 election start out in the fields of Iowa in 2022. Okay? These guys missed 90% of the campaign, showed up with 100 days to go.
Unbelievable.
And when it was over, they were like, the fight was a long one. I'm like, no, it wasn't. You fast-forwarded to the end of the movie.
Down here in the state of Mississippi, Jimmy, we're still a little upset about, and I say that with tongue in cheek, Margaret Brennan over there on Face the Nation. She, of course, interviewed Vice President J.D. Vance, and she took a bit of a shot at my state. She said, we really can't handle emergency situations here. And this was in response to the president saying, maybe we ought to rethink FEMA and dissolve FEMA and rebuild it. Basically said, oh, well, states like Mississippi, they have no means to respond to emergencies. Is she kidding? We eat emergencies for breakfast here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, she's obviously never been down to Mississippi. There are people listening to this call that have more equipment in their garage than FEMA has on the ground in North Carolina right now.
Sadly.
Okay, but that is the ignorance of who these media elites are. Is they have no idea what's happening and how much more advanced you guys happen to be. And the biggest problem for FEMA is when you bring it into federal level, they're not necessarily familiar with the local terrain and the neighborhood and everything in between, which is why Trump is right. If you give additional resources to the states, this stuff gets solved a lot faster, you know,
so
and that's why the media is losing so much trust. It's no different than what you said, Martha Raddatz said to J.D. Vance about Aurora, Colorado. Well, it's only a handful of buildings that have been taken over by gangs. Like, in what world is one building acceptable, let alone a handful? But that's the problem with the media. That's why they're not going to get their credibility back, because they keep going down the same dopey rabbit hole.
It does seem like they're tone deaf, does it not, from what occurred on November 5th?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, because a lot of them just either they didn't get the memo or they're refusing to read it. But again, I mean, I'm fine with them staying this course because it's going to make it a lot easier for Trump to do what we actually need him to do.
Yeah.
In the past, the media was able to slow him down. Nobody's listening. You know what I mean? There's no one listening to anything. The media now gets treated like the crazy guy on the subway who's just yelling at the sky. Like, some of us look at it, but we're not looking at it for any substance. It's just entertainment.
Well, even John Fetterman goes over there to The View, and he kind of schools the lady, does he not? The ladies.
Yeah, that was really funny. The View is, it's a well-dressed therapy session. I actually, this is funny, Gerard, I have a connection to get tickets to The View. They're actually $10 to get in, but they're $200 to get out. They don't let you out. You don't
like Hotel California, huh?
Yeah, you can never leave. You'll never be the same.
I mean, what a character he is. It's been fascinating watching him. He's turned out to be a lot more pleasant than I expected when he was running for Senate.
I told him this, okay? I interviewed him in Washington on my TV show at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I said, it's amazing that once your brain injury healed, you started talking like a Republican. And that's everything you need to know about the world we're living in.
That is so awesome. So today the president is expected to sign executive orders that would change, perhaps completely bar funding to schools across the country that are still including CRT and this radical gender ideology in their curricula. What do you think?
Yeah, this is addition by subtraction. I mean, there's no you know this. There's no grade school kid that should be taught about
crazy.
The fact that they're unconsciously racist or that they're trapped in the wrong body. You know, it's all stupid stuff. It's like we're living in a country where nobody can read or write. You know, the idea that they should be trapped in the wrong bodies. If anything, they're trapped in the wrong classrooms. And we need to work that out. So I think this is the first step towards Trump giving us school choice and doing what he said with FEMA, which is giving it back to the states. That's how I think this is going to end, and I think it's a winner.
Sure. I do too. We got to get the Republicans in the House and the Senate to line up behind the agenda. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I feel like most people get it. You know, they understand that the Trump agenda is the people's agenda. And at heart, politicians are, self-preservationists. They want to stay in office so they can keep going out to those fancy lobbyist dinners, getting those hot stock tips.
No doubt.
So I'm not telling you they're good people, but I am telling you they have a compass. They know which way the wind blows, and I expect them to play ball.
Yeah, I think so, and he's pretty good about rattling the cages. If someone doesn't seem to want to fall in line, I'm a little shocked that Representative Chip Roy from the great state of Texas seems to be bucking the agenda a bit.
Well, Chip Roy, for his credit, believes what he believes and understands that his district, sent him there to articulate their needs, and he believes what he's doing. I mean, that's the one thing about it. So Trump gives him the business a lot. But I think if you were going to make a list of people Trump should be yelling at in the Republican Party, I don't think Chip Roy's like top 25. I mean,
I agree.
What is McConnell doing? Voting against half his nominees,
I completely agree. Jimmy, always a pleasure talking to you. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on. Also, really love your work, man. Totally enjoy it. Appreciate it.
You're the best, bro. Let's do it again soon, brother. Keep playing good ball, man.
Take
care.
Jimmy Failla, host of Fox News Saturday Night with Jimmy Failla and host of Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla, has been our guest. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth